Coming up, Brian and I talk about our New Year's resolutions. Yes, we do New Year's resolutions, and we talk predictions. We're going to start doing predictions and for the year, and we'll have something to look back on at the end of this year. Coming up, stay tuned. You're watching Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. I'm your co-host, Eric Buhrendorf. Along with me, I have Brian Williams. I am the owner and CEO of EVERNET Consulting, an IT firm for the nation. And Brian has Northshire Consulting, an investment advisory firm. Did I get that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Excellent. You can find me at evernetco.com. You can find him at northshireconsulting.com. And this is FinTech, Finance and Technology Insights. And we record every week on Tuesdays. We release on Wednesdays. And we talk about finance and technology and where those things intersect. So thank you for joining us.
Work stuff. Well,
how's the first? What's it like? You texted me and you said you made significant improvements to your billing. Is that something we can talk about?
Yeah, it's not super exciting, but I know that's something you're into. But I mean, we've got assets in a number of different places and a number of different billing methodologies. So some are more subscription based, which is easy. That just kind of hits, that kind of bills people every month, and that's automatic. And then you've got some that are flat fee. That's obviously easy, but a lot of the other ones are based on, asset based. So you don't know what the assets are going to be until the end of the quarter. So they're quarterly in arrears. So there's some calculation behind those, but every quarter gets a little bit streamlined. And a lot of, there's software that does it, but a lot of the software bills per account, it's not a flat fee, like $500 a month for this service. They're like, oh yeah, well, it's only, $2 a month if you use our billing platform. But I have so many small accounts, it's like that it just doesn't make sense. So it's easier for me to just carve out half an hour on a Sunday or something and just do it. So every quarter it just gets a little bit better. It's probably as good as it can be right now. My two main custodians are Schwab and TD, so it's two different systems, but they're merging and it's all going to come under Schwab, and Schwab has the better, easier for me to bill on Schwab. So
I was going to ask you about that. So and that may be the value of the video today, the TD and Schwab merge. Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
My brokerage is TD right now. So I guess, and I've been getting notices that there's going to be changes and whatnot.
Yeah, so pretty similar companies actually. If you get into the corporate side of it, the way it originally sort of came about was TD was almost kind of a smaller version of Schwab. There are a lot of similar processes, and they also had a side that works with advisors. So both companies will work directly with clients, and then they also have like pretty robust advisor platforms as well. And then Schwab, they had more revenue coming from bank side and other sources of revenue than they did from trading. So remember, if you go back, like all the trading costs, it was like $15 a trade, and then it was $9.99, and then it was $8, and they were all, kind of cutting each other. And then Schwab just looked at it. They're like, man, we don't really make much revenue from trading anyway. One of our biggest competitors is TD. They make a larger portion of their revenue from trading. So Schwab said, we're just gonna make trading free, and they were the first to go zero cost trading on stocks and ETFs. And then like a week later, TD had to compete, but it was a significant part of TD's revenue, so that sort of hurt TD more than it hurt Schwab. And then that opened up the door for Schwab to go out and buy TD. So that's kind of how that all came about. But it seems like they're taking it slow. They're doing things the right way. There's some technologies that TD did a really good job with. So for example, they have this rebalancing software where I can go in, and let's say I have 2 or 3 clients that are invested similarly. I can rebalance their accounts all at once based on a model. So that's called iRebal. That was something that TD had bought a few years back. So Schwab is like, instead of just taking it over and drawing a line through everything, we really like that. We're going to keep that and implement that. So they're trying to do the right thing. There's some little quirky things that'll have to get ironed out, and as there always is with any sort of merger. There's something weird with like so TD will allow you to do, I think it's that they're like, if you want to put money into your account, you can do it on the first day of the month, the 15th, and the last day of the month, or something like that. And Schwab has it so it's the first, 15th, or they do like the 28th of the month or something. So there's a few of those that are a little bit weird that they'll have to, we call it repapering. So they'll have to fill out a new application or something, just because the language doesn't jive. So the regulators are like, nah, you can't just take it over and change a process for, it has to be a new application. So there's some interesting things like that that'll flow through, but that should come through. I think they're saying second and third quarter of this year. So
I'll be in a new app, you think, or they're gonna keep I mean, they're gonna make some app changes and some site changes, I'm sure, right?
yeah, and I think they'd be smart to sort of keep the TD brand for a while and slowly merge it and basically get to the point where the apps look the same, and then they can draw a line through one rather than migrate
Right.
everybody over at once. So
Right.
so we'll see how that goes. I think some of it they're going to do like the first tranche and see how that goes, and
Right.
then they might, if they see that everybody that was using the TD is now already switched over to the Schwab, then they'll draw a line through the TD and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, we deal with these kinds of migrations with our clients all the time, and sometimes with the vendor support. Without the vendor support, that's what like IT has been for, in the back end, anyways, for forever, merging disparate systems and databases. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the pod or not, but I was recently admitted to an MBA program at UConn, and that starts in the fall. And I just started going through the orientation and online setups, and I have an email at uconn.edu now, and it's very obvious that they have like different platforms, because I'm creating a password over here and creating a password over here, and they have a single sign-on with Google. Oddly enough, they have like app they have the students have access to Microsoft 365 apps, but then they host their email in Google Workspace. So like they're using
okay.
both platforms. It was a bit surprising that they're doing it. So and then I had to call the help desk, because I was like, I can't log in, and they're like, well, you don't have a secondary login, so you can't do a password recovery to get into your new account. And I'm like, but you have my personal email. Oh, that's a different system. So we have you over here, and we're not over there. So, and what are the big database guys? Is it Oracle? Like Oracle and SAP? You ever heard of those companies?
Yeah.
So those are like just mega database companies. So, when a bank goes, and my banks, and I don't know if I'm probably from a security standpoint, sharing way too much about where my brokerage and banks are, but I was banking at People's Bank forever, and they just got bought by a company called MTB.
Yep.
And so now I don't go to People's Bank anymore. So it's migrations.
Yeah, and that's one that I'm not a customer there but I've heard has not gone very well. I don't know if you can speak to that or not, but that's one that I didn't hear.
It went well-ish. So like we just have this problem where and this is a database thing. They didn't bring forward all of your statements and account activity from the people's database systems. And that's one way to doing a migration, by the way, is just kind of a clean break.
Yeah.
You bring your balances forward, and then you just kind of start a clean data set in the new database. And then if you need a historical look back, you just keep that other system up for a while, and then you keep looking back at it. So that's definitely one methodology that we use when the systems are too far different, and that's causing a little problem for us on the accounting side, unfortunately, but which is resulting in some manual data entry.
Yeah, and there's been some talk on that with Schwab and TD, like how much history is going to come over and all of that. So they've had a series of calls for advisors. I'll admit I haven't been on all of them. I've sort of caught the highlights in here and there, but a lot of the advisors I know, and then a lot of solo guys and gals only worked with TD or only worked with Schwab. And I was kind of working with both of them, so I don't have to learn the Schwab systems. So, I've been kind of watching it a little bit from afar, but
it's like a cliff that we're all going over.
yeah. And there'll be issues. A lot of, since the merger is announced, I like the account opening process with TD. So I was still opening accounts at TD, but for some of the bigger ones, bigger accounts and some of the more complicated stuff, I was just opening those at Schwab. So they won't have to be migrated. I'm
So
not
when you
expecting.
you say you're opening accounts, you open accounts for your clients, obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you do that, do you have to get power of attorney?
So it's a DocuSign package. So when I log into TD, I see all my clients and all that sort of stuff, and then I can click open an account, and then so it's either a new account, a new client, or an existing client. If it's existing, it'll pre-populate the application form, so it'll be a TD app. But there's special TD advisor apps, so it'll have TD Ameritrade and all their information in the top left, and then it'll have all my information in the top right. And so it's an advisory app in there. And then so it's the TD app, and then I can attach all my advisory agreements to that same DocuSign, which is nice, and then send it to the client as a package. And then it goes to TD, and then they open the account, and then I download all the apps, and I can keep all that stuff. So
Cool.
Yep.
So the brokerage host kind of tees up that facility
Yeah.
for you.
Yep. It's their application, so we're attaching to their process. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
So we talked about last show or two, end of year wrap up. So what advice do we have now for what advice do you have now for the first of the year? What are we doing now?
That's
What are our
advice for.
resolutions?
Yeah, not a huge resolution guy, but I think for me it's going to be to try to draw a line through things that I have a natural inclination to help people and do different things that aren't necessarily the most profitable. So I have to sort of push those off to the side. Some of the networking stuff that I did locally, I'm going to pause that for a little bit, just because it gets very redundant, and I think sometimes less is more. So if people are seeing you every couple of weeks and you're saying the same things or whatever, if there's one group that I've been in for a long time, and it's there's some turnover there, but you end up saying the same things to the same people. So that I think I'm going to pause from a little bit. I think that those networking things sort of run their course after a while. So I'm just going to focus more on the one-to-many kind of philosophy of, all right, if somebody calls and asks a question, there's probably a whole swath of clients with that same question. So let's answer them. Let's solve that issue, but then let's get that out in a video. Let's get that out in an email,
Right.
and go that route rather than, going to the local diner and talking to a bunch of strangers who may or may not. Half the people in the room are thinking about what they're going to say, or they're thinking about, something they should have done with their kids before they dropped them off at school, that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I guess that's my resolution, is just to focus on more profitable things. And I don't mean that from a sense of getting rid of non-profitable clients or things like that, but that next level of certain, trying to help people that don't necessarily want to be helped or don't recognize it. So, don't appreciate the stuff that you do. So there's a prospect who's halfway across the state that runs the small business, and you're kind of half interested in the 401k plan. And we've gone back and forth on 2 or 3 emails. And I sent her a spreadsheet. I said, all right, I just need your census data with your employees, which she could just export from her payroll system or whatever. And then instead she sends me, like, she wrote down everybody's date of birth, takes a picture of it and emails it to me. And then she's like, I didn't get everybody's phone number, so I'll get that to you later. And I'm thinking, like, all right, why am I trying to help this person if they're not willing to put in some sort of effort here, if this isn't something they're serious about? And, anything under 10 employees is not, super profitable anyway. And yeah, I could throw a $5,000 startup fee on her or something, but she's not going to pay for it anyway. So, so those type of plans, it's like, all right, a year ago, I might have just kept fighting and done the work for her. But now it's like, yeah, I don't have time for that. So, just to focus on more people that appreciate it and understand the work that you're doing and, are going to be responsible clients, really.
Yeah, I went through that transition. I think I probably talked about it ad nauseum at this point, because it's kind of one of my it's one of those feathers in my caps. It's one of those things I feel really proud about doing. I don't know, maybe about 4 years ago, I instituted something as simple as an onboarding fee. At first it was $200. Now it's $500. I do envision a day when it's even $1,000. And just the first time I did that, it was it was a decision to onboard better clients rather than all clients. And because I was the same way. The amount of charity that we've put out was extensive over the last 15 years. And yeah, it does get to the point where you're wanting to help people who don't know how to be helped or don't want to be helped as much as you want to help them. And and I've been a business owner too, and I've been extended probably the similar kind of help and knowledge, and we all kind of have the timing of when we are prepared and able to receive certain people and certain help along the way. My revelation this year, this month, was, I used to think sales was a bad word. I've said that so many times to you, I think, on the show, and it's so not a bad word. And
Right.
for so many years, I kind of with pride ran this company without any sales apparatus, without any sales function, without any with a fumbling marketing effort. And it's so different. I'm so backwards now. And maybe I could say this losing perspective that I've spent the last 15 years building a world-class service delivery team. So I may be taking that for granted, but now I look at it and I'm like, I have these moments over and over again in business and career, where I'm like, God damn it, I wish I knew that. Then, the first employee I would have hired would have been a business development representative, a BDR, they're called. Somebody who's literally prospecting our ideal customers and adding those ideal customers to our CRM, and then sending emails out every week and making phone calls every week, and just building those relationships into the pipeline of new business. And we just hired our first BDR this month, and now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, it's so instrumental to have that resource and be a sales forward company, because if you're not bringing in new oxygen, you're going to use all the oxygen in the room and then you die. I mean, if that's the metaphor you want to use. So
or if you're not growing, you're dying, or that sort
if you're
of
not
thing,
growing, you're dying,
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it sort of ebbs and flows. And if you'd focused 100% on sales, then your service probably would have suffered, or you would have gained too many clients that you couldn't service, and it would have gone the other way. So yeah, it is sort of that push-pull thing too. Yeah, I mean, there's certain, at this point with your business, the capacity and how many clients you can take with a certain number of employees that you have. And if you gain a bunch of new clients, you got to hire some service people, and so you know how to ratchet that up. So but yeah, I mean, I think for me, part of the reason I do it is, I always say, it's part of the reason I'm in business is to protect clients from like other bad advisors. That's why I'll take people sometime. It's like, man, if I don't help this person, they're going to end up stuck with, insert chain franchise here.
Hero syndrome.
Yeah. So try to help those people that, so they don't get screwed somewhere else. But,
I used to feel that way. I used to feel that exact way about being in business. And I hope this doesn't come across wrong, but that's not the reality for me anymore. I'm in business to make money and make a living and make a good living. And me and my clients are very fortunate, and my staff, by the way, are very fortunate that the way in which we do it, our culture, our company, is through integrity,
Right.
is through world-class service, is through industry best practices. That is the path that I chose for us. But I'm no longer in business to save the world. And but when I have a meeting right after we disconnect with a prospect, and I'm invigorated with every new discovery call that I have with a prospect, because by the time I get on a discovery call with somebody, they have a problem, and
Yes.
and I love being able to help people.
Mhm.
So I'm lucky that I get paid to help people, and
Right.
as you do,
Yep.
but I'm not in business anymore to help people.
Right.
I'm in business to help myself and take care of myself. But our clients and future clients are really lucky that our prices are equitable.
Mhm.
We operate in the market, right in the gut of the market. So our pricing is fair. Our engagement models are fair. We have no lock-in terms or
Yep.
anything. There's no long 3-year contracts.
Nope.
So that's the route we took. So if that makes sense, hopefully that
Yeah,
conveys
definitely
well.
does. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes for me working with businesses or individuals, it comes down to personality. Do I like this person or not? If they're borderline with me as a client or a prospect, but I like them personally, or maybe there's somebody local, or it was a referral. I mean, I'm more likely to take somebody that was a referral. So there's a lot that factors into it. Yeah. But you learn that the clients generally don't change. So if there's problems in the onboarding process, there's going to be a problem in 6 months when they didn't upload their payroll. There's going to be a problem in a year when you need their census data and that sort of stuff. So,
And that's
um,
what a good onboarding process will do. It'll be enough hurdles. It'll be all the right hurdles. And I've talked about this last year.
yeah.
That the onboarding process really is a filtering process.
Hmm.
I've had several former clients, call me repeatedly, and they're just running with their hair on fire, and their business from an IT standpoint and maybe some other regard is just a mess. They're kind of succeeding by brute force,
Hmm.
and they keep calling me, Eric, we need you, we need you, we need you. I was like, great. I just need you to fill out this form. It's a
Hmm.
very simple form, which is basically like who you are, who's getting the bill, who's the point of contact, what support plan you want, some basic inputs.
Yep.
Okay, I'll fill it out I'll fill it out soon. I'll fill it out. I'll fill it and then it's a very simple administrative task. And yeah, this one, and she's a personal friend of mine. She's very lovely. She runs a mortgage brokerage firm, and yeah, she's a mess, but it's nice because the day that she maybe gets her act together and can get through this process, then she'll be a good client,
Right. Yeah.
and
You hope. Knock on wood.
yeah. Well, and then the funny thing is, like, we have account servicing fees
Hmm.
for late unpaid invoices and things, and these are all the things that we put in place that alienated us from a subset of our former clients.
Yeah.
Um, but when I instituted this, it was intended to do that. It was a filtering process,
Right.
because let's face it, like, good clients, they can they can get onboarded with you, they can stay engaged with you to get onboarded, they can
Hmm.
stay engaged with you to benefit from the service they're paying you for, and then
Right.
they can pay you on time for it.
Right.
And it's it's like, early days that was a novelty, but
Hmm.
now that's really business norm for us.
Yeah.
That's really what we expect from all of our clients, and we don't really suffer anybody who can't do that, because that's mature business. That's
Mhm.
productive business.
Yeah.
I don't
That
want
is one thing that I like about our industry and don't take for granted is the fact that we have their money. So when we bill them, we have it.
Yeah,
We don't
right.
ever have to chase it. It's a lot
You don't
easier
take
when it comes from their accounts.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
Yeah.
we used to do net 30, and we have a lot of clients, and technically, we have some clients that the policy is you come on with a retainer
Hmm.
for the first year, and then if you ask for it, we can if you have good credit with us, we can switch you to a net 30 where we could pay you. But quite frankly, by then they don't really care either way.
Yeah.
So we have a mechanism that holds the retainer, draws from the retainer, and automatically charges them for the retainer. And it's the evolution of business. I love it.
Yeah. Nope. It's definitely a good thing. So much stuff is subscription and automatic payment now anyway. So you don't have to chase bills, which is good.
Yeah. Anything going on in the news?
News wise, I would say we talked so much about Secure Act last time, but that did end up getting signed. So that was a pretty big deal. So Biden did sign that. I want to say the 29th or may even have been the 30th. So that is in effect as we speak now. So it's pretty significant. It's funny when you scroll. For me, when I scroll through LinkedIn, that's like all it is. It's like I can't even go on LinkedIn. Everybody's talking about Secure Act 2. So I assume that everybody in the world knows about it, but that's not obviously the case. But I was did a Zoom call this morning with a networking group, same sort of thing, and I was writing down some notes ahead of time. I'm like, you don't want to sound like we said before, like salesy or like it's a dirty word, but. So I'm on this call and I'm like, listen, everybody in Connecticut with 5 or more employees has to have a plan by March 30th. Okay. You just have a tax act that was passed that gives you 100% tax credits, not tax deduction, tax credits, meaning it doesn't cost the company anything. And you have automatic enrollment now, which is the law. So all your employees get signed up, whether they want to or not. You don't have to chase forms. Then if they want to opt out, they opt out. So there's very little labor, there's no cost, and you have to do it anyway. So it's like, and there was probably 10 businesses on the call, and I don't know, maybe half of them have. But I mean, if it's like all 5 of them that didn't have plans should have like called me right after. They didn't, but it's like, you're trying to help people and you're trying to do the right thing. And you're like, I'm serving this up to you on a platter. Like, here's what you have to do. And the response was minimal so far. We'll see. It's only a couple hours ago, but
So how many pages were in that legislation?
about 4,100.
About 4,000 pages in that legislation.
Yeah.
The problem, and I'm going to preach a little bit, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this,
Yeah.
but there's so many laws, so many laws. I think it's clear. We've seen this with the president's taxes were supposed to be audited during every president every year is supposed to have their taxes audited. Trump's taxes just weren't being audited. I think 2 of his 4 years. It's like the government writes the laws, but the onus is on the government to enforce the laws, and enforcement seems to be really nebulous right now. I mean, just driving down the road, like, I don't want to go down this road necessarily, but it's like I drive the speed limit for a lot of reasons because I like to hit cruise control. I like to get in the right lane and just kind of like coast, kind of float,
Yeah.
but like I'm doing the speed limit set on cruise and I'm getting run over by everybody,
I know.
So, I don't want to, what am I trying to say? So like the laws, like businesses of 5 and more need to have a retirement plan. You need to do with this. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. But like, it's I'm not justifying. I guess I'm saying like,
There isn't the urgency that you feel like there should be, Yeah.
I mean, it's like HIPAA, are you familiar with HIPAA?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah. So HIPAA, came out 10 or more years ago or whatever. And it was a huge, and it still is a huge sale vehicle for companies like mine, because we help our health and health care clients stay compliant with HIPAA. but we're starting to see like a lot of like meh about it, like we see a lot of clients that are like, or prospects or whatever, and saying like, what you're doing right now is not HIPAA compliant by a lot. Like, this is
Right.
not only is this not HIPAA compliant, but this is like problematic for your business. And again, the business owner is imperative, like they're, whether it's not in the budget or they have 30 other things to do. Like, being a small business owner is, you are literally wearing all the hats. You're the
Yep.
bookkeeper, you're the salesperson, you're the business development, you're the HR manager, you're the, um, all these things. So I don't know what am I saying?
You're saying, although it's something that's at the top of my plate, it's not at the top of small business owners' plate because they have so much going on.
And I don't want to issue any cop outs. I guess
Yeah.
I guess I'm framing the reality of like, yeah, write your laws and go for it. But it's like there's the small business owner has so many burdens, and for whatever reason, through whether it's a lack of financial literacy or maybe because of the financial complexity of things like a benefits package and a
Mhm.
retirement plans, and it's like, well, you've got the IRA and then you got the Roth IRA, and it's like it's tax going in, it's tax coming out, it's tax deferred, it's tax
Mhm.
deductible. I used to like this. Do you remember? Do you remember? I don't even remember if he was a Democrat or Republican. I think he's a Republican. But remember Herman Cain when he was running?
Sure.
Herman Cain.
Yeah.
You remember what his
999.
Yeah, his platform was 999. Do you remember what the
Mhm.
nines were?
What the nines were? It was yeah, a sales tax, and income tax, and then what
I don't remember the third.
property tax or something maybe. But
Yeah.
do you remember what the joke was behind that?
No.
That he stole his tax plan from Sims, because that was like the default when you built Sim City. When you went in, it was 999, and you could adjust those to create your city. Yeah,
I
that
hope
was the
that's
joke.
true. I really do hope that's true.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, we hear, Europeans, they do their taxes on a postcard, and the government does the math for them.
Mhm.
We hear that Trump's tax returns are just released, and the guy hasn't paid taxes in the last 6 years or something. And I'm not
Mhm.
making a case for anything, except maybe my case is like, uh, America like lives in this like way over bureaucratic realm,
Right.
and I don't want to put any accountants out of business, but at the same time, like, if you want everybody to do their taxes and do them well, like, make it easier,
Mhm.
you know? Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then I read some, you guys know that I'm libertarian leaning, and in certainly more when I was in my 20s, I was doing some reading, and I think it was Ron Paul, or maybe some contemporary in his circle was saying like, taxation really should occur at the spending, not at the earning,
Mm.
and what if all of taxes just were incurred at the moment of transaction, and it was in the form of sales tax. Yeah, maybe the sales tax goes up. Maybe you have a state tax and a federal tax, and the collective is 12% on every transaction or whatever. But like, what if like then you have no other taxes?
Mhm.
you, you know
Yeah.
um, I don't know. What do you feel about all that stuff?
If I could draw up the tax code now, I think we'd start it. I like the idea of a one singular spot. I think it's easier to do. I'd rather do it on the net worth side. So to have an income-based tax system, I don't think makes a ton of sense, because it's not necessarily a reflection of an entity's or a person's ability to pay. So I think if you had a net worth based system where it's just like, all right, one page, write down all your assets, and everybody has to pay, whatever that number is, even if you did it on a sliding scale, but all
And
your
how does that
assets, all.
account for equities and assets appreciating and depreciating? So, for example, the ultra wealthy, and this is a question I've had floating, and maybe this is our show subject or show
Yeah.
title today. But I was like, well, they want to tax the billionaires, but the billionaires are only billionaires on paper. And what does that
Mhm.
mean? That, and for anybody not doing any stock investing, it literally means they hold ownership shares of a company, publicly traded company, and the market at that time says that share is worth, what it's worth. So then if you times the amount of shares they have times what the current or present market value,
Yeah.
I guess, then you're like, wow, you're worth this much money. But as we see, like Tesla lost 60 or 75% of their value in the last 12 months. So, like, how does that work?
So under my system, so it would be, you wouldn't necessarily be credited for the depreciation. It's just 1 year you would have a net worth of whatever, and then if the market went down, you'd have a net worth of
Oh, I
whatever
see.
less.
Okay. So of
Yeah,
your holdings every
yeah,
year per annum, you would just be taxed on
yeah.
a percentage of the net worth.
Right. And you'd have no IRAs, 401ks, annuities, all that sort of stuff. It's like, all right, you want to get stock, go buy it. Just put it in an account. Just at the end of the year, write down how much you have, or maybe the companies report that direct, and then you just pay and you put your houses on there, maybe your cars, and then
But then doesn't that create an environment where, like, what if you're not cash income producing and you're net, like, you have to start selling your assets in order to pay the tax?
yeah, I guess so. I mean, it wouldn't be that much. I mean, if your net worth is $1 million and we're taxing it, I don't know. I did spreadsheet it out and back into the number at one point. It was not that
But
high, but just you're basing it on your net worth. And yeah, if you had to sell, I mean, people have to sell stocks now sometimes to cover taxes, so it wouldn't be the
yeah, but that
worst thing.
might be because of the you don't know what their cash is coming or going. But in a model where you're being taxed on your net worth, in a way, then you don't get to own anything. I mean, eventually I don't, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm trying to
Yeah,
say, like, well, I mean, can't you just get to the point where you own your house? I mean, I guess you do have property taxes, and that is an erosion tax, I guess. So I guess that would make sense. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, your assets are likely to gonna be appreciate faster than the taxes.
Oh,
It's not a
hopefully.
system where yeah. I mean, the system wouldn't be built. Obviously, I think that would be a better starting point.
Hmm.
Than I mean, obviously, you'd have to, it's not gonna be a one-page tax code, but it's gonna be certainly be a lot easier than what you have now. I mean, the knock on a system like that is, well, people would hide assets, or they'd bury money in there, but yeah, I think it's far easier to hide income tax and do the sort of shenanigans than it is
Well, I
to,
mean, it certainly
you know.
adds a cost, and the cost. I mean, 83,000 IRS agents. Is that what was being hired?
Yeah,
How many was
yeah,
that? It was like tens of thousands, wasn't it?
yeah, it was a lot, yeah.
Y- you know and if you just had a simpler tax code, you would negate needing to hire tens of thousands of IRS agents that are poring over this convoluted, you
Mhm.
know and I don't want to, like, preach to the choir, I guess, because everybody's probably, anybody who's made it this far is probably rolling their eyes like, yeah, we get it, Eric, like, the US tax code sucks, but, like, but yet everybody kind of seems okay with the status quo. It's like, it's how
Well,
we've
yeah.
been doing it, it's how we've always done it, and by gosh, it's how we're gonna do it, and it's like daylight savings time. Can we
Yeah, but
just
that's changing.
It is, there is movement of change, there is a hope for change. I just hope that, yeah, it would be nice to just go to, yeah, like a flat sales tax, and maybe that's the solution. Maybe a flat net income tax. You just
Yeah,
sum
net
up
worth tax, yeah, put all your
y-
assets down
net
and
worth. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that way that I mean, that what that solves the problem for is, I mean, you could have somebody that's got $1 billion of net worth, but they have no income and they pay no taxes. I mean, that to me, that's ridiculous. I mean,
Right.
I don't fault them. I mean, they're playing the game, that's the rules of the game that have been presented to them. But, and when you get on that scale, you can borrow against your assets. And if you need to spend money, you do that. And it doesn't, borrowing doesn't count as income and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the
But
income tax does seem to just hit the little guy, doesn't it? Is
yeah,
that
yeah. I mean,
or the middle class?
yeah, and it attacks, production and that sort of stuff. So you had total tax receipts of about 5 trillion, and you've got a household net worth of 150 trillion, if I'm reading that quickly here.
He's
So
doing math, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, so it's just
He's pulling data. Let's pull some data.
if I'm reading all the numbers correctly. So yeah, that is about the number. If you paid 3% of your net worth. So think about that. If you would prefer
Say that
that as
again.
so if everybody paid about 3% of their net worth, you'd end up with the same tax receipts. So
I'm gonna do
you
those
just
numbers after we hang up and see.
yeah, and see if you'd prefer to do that or not.
And just have it be a known quantity, right? Just
Yeah, you know what your house is worth. They know what your brokerage assets are. They could be, maybe it's just reported on that. Again, there's a million ways to raise
how
your hand, and yeah,
how about the non-homeowners and the non-investors and
you got half the country that doesn't pay any income tax now. So
right,
you'd end up with half the country that has a negative net worth and may not pay a net worth tax.
right, right. Yeah, and so if there's, I mean, so if we're sensitive to the low earners and anyways, then the low earners and those not accumulating wealth in that sense or would be exempt.
Yeah, they just wouldn't necessarily be exempt. They just don't have anything to pay on. It's like somebody now with no income. They just file and say, I have no income. You would just file and say, I have no assets.
No assets, no assets. Right. I mean, if you had a car, um, would you sum up property, your couch, your TVs,
Yeah, I mean,
etc.?
you'd have to decide how granular you want to get with it. And that's where people poke holes in it. They say, well, I'd just buy I'd go out and buy a $20 million painting or something. And, so, that's how people think that they would get around it. But
999.
999, yeah.
9% sales tax, 9%, what state sales, well, I guess you wouldn't dictate this what the state wants to do, but 9% property tax, 9% income tax, I don't know.
Yeah, it
Something
was
simple.
9% personal income tax, 9% federal sales tax, and 9% corporate tax. That was
Oh, the corporate
Herman
tax.
Cain's. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Hopefully something happens simpler. I can't imagine why it stays the way it is. It just so bizarre. In fact, the only reason why I think it's probably stays the same is because so many people are abusing the system and or just benefiting from abusing it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, abusing it. I mean, you have both sides of it. You have the legal side and you have the illegal side of it. Um,
But again, if it's up for interpretation,
yeah, right.
it's self-reporting. You know what I mean? It's like it's self. Until it's like it's illegal. It's legal until it's illegal. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
The guidance is there and whatever. So, anyways, good talk. What's our headline? What's our title for the show
Well,
today?
just for fun, I did pull up this article as I mentioned. This was Herman Cain's 999 from SimCity. This was that was kind of the joke back in the day, is that his tax plan was based on the default tax rates of SimCity.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I remember
I
that,
love
joking
that
about that at the time.
so much. I didn't see that, but that is so funny.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean the argument is maybe taxes should be as simple as a video game.
Yeah, or
You
at
know?
least start there, but, you
Yeah.
know, to keep the tax code we have now and just keep adding to it rather than just scrap the whole thing then and then eventually get it back up to, what it needs to be to collect the revenue. But
Yeah, the problem with that is there's so many special interests that
yeah.
if you kind of clean sheet something like the tax code, you end up
Hmm.
pissing off everybody.
Hmm.
And because we're the democratic process and you're beholden to the politicians are beholden to the constituents. There's the system's designed not to piss everybody off
Right.
in a sweeping kind of way. um
And unfortunately, it's designed
so,
to be overly complex so that people don't understand it or don't know how to fix it or, think that it's over their head.
yeah
So,
yeah all right, well that's a wrap for today, unless you got anything else. I don't
yeah.
think I have any news that I wanted to cover. Anything on Chat GPT you want to talk about? Any AI headlines? Did
No,
we
just seeing
exhaust
it.
that?
No, yeah, I think we exhausted that I think it's going to continue to be a big story. We were kicking around the idea of throwing out a couple of predictions for this year.
Oh yeah, you want to do a prediction
like
show,
that.
right?
I
Predictions.
guess I don't have a ton of predictions, and one of my one is already starting already, but I think there's going to be some struggles ahead for Tesla and Elon Musk. I think as it gets the stock got creamed yesterday, and it's at 52-week lows, so it's not like I'm going out on a ledge here. But I think as competition heats up for him, and people start to view what he's doing as a little bit more of a car company than a technology company, I think that changes the valuation quite a bit. And I think his public persona is going to make people less interested in buying cars from him to some extent, whether that's right or wrong. But there'll be some people shopping for EVs that'll just simply say that guy creeps me out, or I don't like what he's doing, or whatever. And I think that may hurt business a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be something that's that sort of cascades through that. I don't know the intricacies of if he's borrowed against his Tesla stock. There's some sort of people are maybe concerned about that he might be over leveraged, and he's able to work through at certain valuations. But if Tesla was valued like GM or Ford, then he might have some other financial issues that could cascade a little bit. But
so let's put that in a can, or
yeah,
on one line. What is your prediction? Tesla stock continues a decline. Elon
and I think the overextension of Elon, maybe financially and personally, creates some unneeded headwinds for Tesla, I guess would be my headlines.
That's a safe prediction. Because it's open, right?
It sounded a little bit better a week ago. I mean,
let's boil it down. You think the Tesla stock continues to decline? What is it trading at right now?
Let's see. It's
120 or 170 something. And here's our show headline predictions for the
no. I'm trying to stay away from specific stock calls. I mean, it's at 111 now.
Oh wow, it's at 111. So generally, you think it continues to decline by the end of next year or this year?
If I had to guess higher or lower, I'd say lower in a year. Yeah, I would.
Okay, and then Elon's employment as CEO of Tesla. He's CEO of Tesla by the end of this year, or no?
No. Okay. I think he's smart enough to hire somebody.
And are you making any other more dramatic predictions as far as like the success or failure of Tesla?
No, but I just think it's lost some of the bloom off its rose, so to speak. Or it was a Hollywood darling for a while. I don't think it's going to be anymore. So we'll see what other competitors step up. And
do you want to kind of go through all your year predictions and then mine, or do you want me to
go?
Well,
what triggered you mentioned the chat GBT stuff.
Well, I want to respond to your. I want to make
go ahead.
Of Tesla and Elon. So Tesla was grossly overvalued.
Yes.
Grossly overvalued in the traditional sense, right? Stock value to in relation to price to earnings ratio, they were like way out of whack, right. And I haven't seen any analysis of what their current stock value is in the comparison of the traditional. Are you able to make that analysis on the fly here?
Well, so right now, even with the dramatic decline, it's at a PE of price to earnings ratio of 34.
And can we bring your screen on or no?
Yeah.
And we don't have Nathan's going to chop this up, so we don't have to worry about going long. This is
So GM, if you look at a price to earnings of 5, so that's more traditional for an automaker. If we look at Ford, you got a PE of 5.
Okay, so now show us Tesla.
Tesla is going to be around 34. Price to earnings ratio of 33.
So they're still at 33, and that's at its present value. Like, I wonder, could you do the calculate? Will the chart give you any history on when it was at like 700?
Well, you've got a 52-week high of 400. So, and the earnings multiple hasn't changed that much. So you got to figure that the PE was probably about 120 at its peak.
Yeah. So like they were out of whack, right? I mean, the valuation of Tesla stock is out of whack. It's still out of whack. Those stock splits that they did, just he did that. I don't know if he did that with reckless abandon or what, but those stock splits induced more of that retail buying. So now to come to make my prediction in response to your, well, I don't want to say in response to yours. The Tesla prediction for the year, stock price, will it go up again or will it go down? I think the pigs are getting slaughtered. I think I'm gonna join you and say that the price stays flat or continues to go down. Although I think that Tesla is not a traditional car company. I think they've proven that they're not a traditional car company. So the question is, how many companies are they in one? So they are a car company. They are an energy company with their batteries and their solar.
Yep.
What other interests do they do? I know they're trying to get into the robotics.
Mm-hmm.
So what's a traditional price to earnings ratio for like a power company or for like Sunrun, for example?
Yeah, I mean probably 10, 12, something like that.
Okay.
So peak price to earnings ratio for Tesla was about 1,400 in January of 2021.
Yeah.
So even if you go back 1 year, you're still at 200 price to earnings. Now you're at 33.
Yeah, they're out of whack.
Multiple.
So my prediction, I guess I'll just get simple on this. They're more than one. They're more than a car company, that's for sure. I think any analyst I've used them as a car company, and I say this not with rose tinted glasses. They are producing energy products, and car companies are not producing energy products. Although Ford, I think Jim Farley recognizes that they can be more than a car company. All these guys need to realize is that they're a platform company. The cars can be an energy platform, so they can be an energy company. Start plugging these things into the grid. They're going to do load balancing. Like right now, I have a gas powered generator, and I would love and I drive a 14-year-old vehicle, and I'm waiting for my first EV purchase. And Tesla doesn't do vehicle to grid, so the vehicle can't be used as a house battery, and that's something that I really want. Jim Farley recognized that with the Ford Lightning, you could plug your Ford Lightning into your house, and it can battery back up your entire house, act as a generator, and I think that's really compelling. So, will Tesla? They sell the Tesla Powerwalls, but will they turn on vehicle to grid? So I think I'm going to say the price almost stays flat, because I think it's overvalued as a car company, but I think it's appropriately valued as a conglomerate, an energy company and a car company. I think they're going to continue to ramp up. They're going to get the semi out. They're going to get they're going to get their first units of the Cybertruck out. They did lose that kind of. They're coming out of the honeymoon phase for sure. The leftists loved them, the right loved them, the right loved them, but he's definitely alienating himself from the left for sure. Will it be enough for them to say, will Tesla be, will it become factioned? Where GM used to be a real right leaning company, still kind of is. Like when you see the Chevy bow tie, on a emblem on the back of a car, like to me it's just like, yeah, you're Republican. It just feels very, very like that. Except for the Tahoes that roll around here.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think I'm going to predict that the Tesla stock stays flat, but doesn't crater, because I think they've got the earnings to show for it, and I think they've got the manufacturing runway to continue that, and I think they've got still enough demand for their product. Will their robot come out and be useful? No, I don't think so. Will their full self-driving software allow you to go full autonomy, hands-free? I still don't think they get it done in this year, although I think with Chat GPT has shown us that AI can all of a sudden flip on overnight. and it can be available overnight. I'm a little surprised that maybe like their software doesn't feel like a Chat GPT to me. It doesn't feel like they've got that like web of, you know, when you talk to Chat GPT, it's like it's conversational. It's really bizarre, you know. Can they tap that kind of technology and really kind of give the software this awareness that it needs to just operate on city streets with other humans? I don't know. I feel like it could happen overnight, but does it happen this year? I think it does happen, but I don't know for Tesla.
Well, yeah, and the hurdles for there might be regulatory. Might be a while before they may have the systems in place, but they'd have to get regulatory approval, and how do we police this stuff and all that we've talked about before. Do you still consider them the leader in autonomous vehicles and
I never
software?
have. I
Okay.
never viewed them as the leader. G, uh, GM's Cruise and Google's Waymo. They're already
Mhm.
operating self-driving taxis on city
Yeah.
streets. So that to me is leadership. That, you know, there's an Israeli company called Mobileye that Tesla
Mhm.
used to use for their vision technology and things, and they're putting out some compelling content to showcase their platform. They're a hardware seller and software seller, so I think they're trying to lease their software to companies, and that's compelling. So I don't view Tesla as a leader, except that I think they might be onto something about using vision for their AI,
Okay.
rather than lidar and radar. So I don't know. Um, so, anyways, that's a lot of meat on that bone. But Tesla, is Elon Musk the CEO of Tesla by the end of this year? I'm going to say he is. I don't think he's ready to give that control away, especially with the stock price cratering like it did. I think he needs to have control of that. Does he stay at Twitter? I'm going to say maybe not. I think he leaves Twitter.
Yeah.
Um, Urban air mobility doesn't come online this year either, as much as I want it to. um, I don't know what other sectors. What happens in crypto?
Oh, that yeah. I don't even want to wager a guess on there. I think actually, Bitcoin's done well, even with all the SBF stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it higher in a year. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised to see it back over 20,000. I think it sort of shook out all the weak hands, as they say. I think the
right.
people that are in it now are probably in it for the long term, or there's that fundamental base in there that's either owned by people who won't be easily spooked and forced to sell.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
crypto is providing a service to those who are using it. So, I mean, it is a currency to those using it as a currency, and as an investment vehicle for those who are trying to use it as an investment vehicle. Like I said, the pigs got slaughtered. So, um, yeah, I don't think crypto goes anywhere.
yeah, and the only question is, does it become so regulated that it sort of defeats the purpose of it to begin with? Does it?
And can it be regulated? I mean, the black market will continue to wield it. You know, rogue nations and things like that. Anyways, I know that we're running long, but any other Hail Mary predictions? What do
Mm,
we
nah, I don't know. I think that's probably it for now. I think that's what do you got prediction wise?
think? I think I just spilled my guts here.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. You know, the things mobility, self driving. I think Cruise and Cruise and Waymo continue to roll out. Maybe another few more cities. Chat GPT, I think maybe comes to or should be coming to the Amazon Echoes and the smart speakers. Like that conversationality is exactly what these speakers needed, to these smart assistants. So
Hmm.
hopefully they tap that. Does Google release a new tab and give you free, a new way to search, and get information back? I don't know. So it's almost like does we're in 23. So does 23 a coast year, or
Mm.
is it a innovation year?
Yeah, they're
Um,
talking about that with the CES, the Consumer Electronics show. That if they say it's kind of going to be a down year, that it's transitioned a lot to like the transportation sector. It's no
Mobility.
longer about like the personal gadgets and the hottest TV and all that sort of stuff, because all that's sort of run its
TV's
course.
Well, yeah, TV's a mature product. You know, we don't need much more than an 8K TV, because resolution, the way it works, you sit close enough to a TV, 4K, 8K, and so yeah, I mean that stuff. Cell phones, it can only be, it's a mature product. You can't really change that form factor anymore. I
Nope.
hope the smart glasses industry takes off. I'd love to just put glasses on and have a heads up display, so I'm not always like doing the cell phone neck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've talked about. I'm so tired of the cell phone neck. That's why I got the watch, so I can try to look at more alerts like this rather than the cell phone neck.
Right.
So I'm hoping that comes, but does that come this year? I don't know. I don't think so. It might this might be a coast year. So I don't, urban air mobility, I don't think comes to market. Full self-driving robo taxis, I don't think comes to market. I don't think Elon Musk's robot comes to market. So this might be a gap year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nothing new with the metaverse. You don't see yourself opening up a storefront there.
No, because again, the form factor. We have an Oculus, and the form factor is too clumsy. My kids can't use it. It's heavy. The battery life. It's all that stuff has to continue to shrink. The resolution has to continue to go up. Does Apple release their headset this year? I can't. The mock-ups, the fan art that they've mocked up for the Apple VR headset, I can't imagine Apple wanting to get into that market because it's just not good enough. There's not enough value there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
and they wouldn't do some sort of combination product where you slide your phone in and use it that way.
It doesn't feel Apple-y to me, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't. You know what feels Apple-y to me? Like I'm talking about those heads-up glasses,
Mm-hmm.
like some pass-through glasses that you can get prescription or not, that has like a screen on it that gives you information, useful information where like you don't feel ugly, you don't feel clumsy, you don't feel weighted down,
Right.
So I could be wrong, and it's Tim Cook's Apple now. So, and we've seen he's released a number of products that people like. They've said that Steve Jobs would never have a camera bump. That when camera bumps came out on iPhones,
Oh
they're like
yeah.
Steve Jobs would never have released a product with a camera bump.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's fun
Yeah.
to see, fun to guess.
Sure is.
So I think that's a wrap for the day, unless you got anything else.
Nope, I think that's good.
All right, buddy. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, we'll see you. All right, that wraps up another show. I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting, an independent advisory firm. You can find me online at northshireconsulting.com. Our social media handles are under 401k and beyond. He is Eric Buhrendorf. He's the CEO of EVERNET. You can find him at evernet.com and his
EVERNETCO.com.
EVERNETCO.com. You'd think I would know that by now.
Right.
EVERNETCO.com and his various social media platforms. And we'll see you next week.
All right. See you, Bri.